Hello, this is Colerain Township.
And welcome to Colerain Communicator. I'm Jason Grzgorek. Over the past few months, we have been noticing a trend coming into the area of Colerain Township. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, being the cleanup and the prevention and the assistance of an opiate problem that is happening not just in Colerain, but throughout the United States. I'm very fortunate to have from Colerain Township, of course, Dan Malloy. Dan, glad you could join us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
You know, we last month I kind of prefaced that we'd be coming back to discuss this, and I used your piece at the opiate epidemic discussion that you had at Clippard, which I thought was a great piece to start the awareness. Mm-hmm. That was a great means to get everyone together and a wonderful way to be able to start the conversation.
Right.
Let's go back to that. Obviously, you were aware that there was a problem happening. You took that initiative to bring that awareness. What did it take to make that happen, and where are we today?
What it took for all that to happen was a lot of education, a lot of changing a mindset, understanding the depth of the problem. From my police role, it was a lot of drugs, drug trafficking, drug possession. Those are criminal behavior. We'll arrest them, and we were arresting. We had a lot of activity in since about 2010. We saw a transition of drugs move towards, wow, heroin's really taking an effect on what's going on in Colerain. But we knew there was no border, there was no fence line. It was transitioning throughout Southwest Ohio and throughout the region. And as you said in your introduction, it's going on throughout the United States. It's not just impacting us, but the realization that this is a bigger issue that has to be addressed differently than just we can't arrest our way out of it. Okay, so police department, fire department, we're problem solvers. Let's think differently. Let's bring smart people to the table and listen and talk it through. And that's where I think we started to evolve. We brought the school district to the table. We brought their nurse coordinator. We brought local business to the table, human resource directors. We brought police and fire, of course. Mm-hmm. We brought in some recovery experts. We since have brought in Hamilton County Public Health. So they're sitting at the table, and we have some doctors that assist us with issues specific to understanding what all this stuff means. And we've talked this through, and that's kind of how we realize that we need to be aggressive with our community, let them know, number one, we're aware of the problem. We've been working on it, but obviously that's not enough. We need to continue to move forward and think differently. So the February 25th effort was an opportunity to engage the community, listen to what they believe the depth of the issue is, bring in experts. We have a partner from the Ohio Attorney General's office that's part of our coalition, part of our collaborative, and make sure that we have all the right people sitting at the table. And we've expanded our group, to some folks from recovery, to family members, to those kinds of folks that really, really are dealing with it, but then give us some great perspective. Not to jump ahead, but this flyer itself, we made sure when we created it, we took a lot of data from a lot of different resources, but we also gave it to the doctors and asked their opinion. We also gave it to some folks in recovery and said, is this a worthy document to pass out, to make available to our community, to give them information that will help them?
Not to belittle it, but you did your homework.
Correct.
You wanted to give the positive and the important and pertinent information, as opposed to creating a flyer that's just going to say, yeah, there's a problem.
Correct. And our goal was to give people resources that otherwise wouldn't know what else to do in the event they found themselves in a situation where someone was in an overdose situation. What do I do? I mean, reality, 98.9%, unless I'm a medic or I'm a doctor, the stress of that situation, we're not going to be thinking clearly. Sure. So how do we know what to do, and can we save this person's life and make sure that they have an opportunity to breathe again? And this really was, a simple, again, great idea. Thank you very much. Now we're working on the distribution of it. Again, there's so many things that we've done to try and educate where we come from. So you take the February piece, and we get out and we talk. We created a frequently asked questions piece, added it to our website. Those were questions that came from all the questions that were submitted at the event. We went out, got all the right answers, put them out there, because we figured if they're asking them, other people may be. And if you Google it, it'll come up. So maybe we can give them some help. We also have our resource packet. You're holding the resource packet
right
in
here.
hand. This, sadly enough, this was one of the pieces when I first got involved, was so simple and so important to those that had to suffer through this as family members, as parents, as grandparents, things of that nature. Where do I go? What do I do? What is this information? What is addiction? What really happens? And so we worked with the Baden family and their community recovery project. Asked them, can I take this? Can we hand it out on our police and fire runs? Can we make it available? So we've probably handed out 120 plus since August of last year to family members, victims of the overdose situations. And encouragingly, we've got some feedback that said, thank you guys. You saved my life. You saved my family member's life. This got them answers, got them resources. That's what it's supposed to be. It's paper. 5 pages of paper, pass it out, and you win. And the reality is there is so much victimization involved in this disease that it's not just the person, it's the family, it's the grandparents, it's the neighborhoods, it's all these things that trickle down from.
It's more of a domino effect.
Absolutely.
Than one thing to another.
You know, and the other question that you get as you talk along these items is, well, what about the crime related to it? Well, if I'm in addiction and I'm in need of the drug, they break into houses, they break into cars, they're looking for items to pawn, they're looking for things to sell, to trade, to barter, to get resources, to get that drug, to address that need. Well, if someone is in recovery, they don't need to break into houses, they don't need to break into cars, they don't need to steal credit cards out of the mail, they don't need to do all those things they don't need to break in to their neighbor's house. They don't need to do all that, because now they're in recovery. Hopefully they're getting employment and they're becoming productive citizens, and those kind of things are happening. So there is a trickle down in the benefit when it comes to a reduction in crime, because we all have seen spikes in the property crimes, which is what happens.
And to kind of give a perspective, you know, when you were talking about these darker items,
right,
most people are looking at and I'll use it in quotes, the bad part of town.
Mm-hmm.
When we're dealing with a heroin and an opiate situation, this can happen anywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
This is not isolated to one area.
No, this is not a socioeconomic issue. This is all walks of life, all kinds of families. Doesn't matter what school you go to, what job you have. This touches us all. And you know, if you walked into a room of 100 people and you asked them to raise their hand if they knew of someone that was suffering from an addiction, probably more people than not we would know someone would raise their hand, and it would be sad to see the number that raised their hand, because it's affecting us all, and it's tragic. But I think it's allowing us an opportunity to reach parts of our communities that may have never opened their eyes up to the problem, because they always viewed it as someone else's problem.
And I think that was where I was going to go, is do you think this is the infamous syndrome of, well, this doesn't happen here, not in my backyard, turn the back, and let's ignore the problem, because it's never going to happen to me or someone I know?
I think that's out there, that's been out there, but I think, unfortunately, as every day goes by, there's some other opportunity where someone you know is affected, and you're, wow, I never would have. Gee, I didn't think that would happen to them. Those are the kind of comments that we're hearing as we talk amongst these groups. And there's people that come up to me and say, you know, thank you, and my so-and-so. You could fill in the blank. Friend, family, brother, sister, son, daughter are affected by this. And you're like, you know, I'm sorry. It truly, you know, it is a disease. And we need to be able to respond to it from what I believe is a community perspective and a public safety perspective, that they look to us, they look to community leaders, and they say, what are you doing about this? Are you engaging the right people? Are you bringing the right people to the table? Obviously, you're not an expert in this, which we're not. So,
but you never claimed to be,
no.
and I think that's the key to that. You've looked at the problem, you've looked at the situations. You could have picked probably anything else to look at first, but you were looking at a hard problem that wasn't being addressed, and quite frankly has grown into, as we've said, an epidemic now.
It is, and it truly is. And if you look at the numbers, this is just it's an issue. I mean, it is an epidemic, and it's really, really sad that it's reached this point. But the one statement that we make, and I've had the question, well, what do you do when this stops? Number one, that's really generous to believe that we can make that kind of an impact. Of course, that's the goal,
sure,
is you make that kind of an impact, but the reality is, even if you stopped the opiate problem, there's always going to be something else to replace it. The good
sure.
thing is the building of the networks, the building of the relationships, the teamwork, the templates being built to address whatever comes down the line. Is it swine flu? We've addressed that. Is it Ebola? What affects the community next? We've built a network of relationships and a template to say, okay, folks, here's the problem on the table. Let's bring all our brains together and say, okay, now how are we going to work to solve this? How are we going to work to make our community better? That's, to me, the 5 and 10 year look at it. We might run parallel with the opiate and heroin problem.
Sure.
But if another problem comes up, we've built the system that understands bringing people together and making things work. So,
what makes that jump? I mean, obviously, there is not going to be a miraculous, we solved problem A, let's go to problem B. You're right, it would be a fantastic thing to happen. But what is the trigger that makes that jump to be able to say, okay, we have this, we'll use under control. We know what's going on. We can always come back to it. We're never leaving it, and I think that may be the key. That you're never going to leave the situation. You don't have to focus on it. But what makes that jump to the next one, like you're saying, to Ebola, to swine flu, to the next epidemic?
I guess it's a matter of what's going on in society. But back to the heroin and the overdose issue is we've gone from 50 overdoses to 86 to 141, projecting close to 200 in 2015. What's success? Really, that's very liberal to this conversation because, when you get a guy stop by and say, I received a recovery packet, I'm in treatment, I'm now this deep in recovery, you saved my life, thank you very much, I deem that as a success. Because if we would have done nothing,
where would he have been at the next level?
If we didn't give him any other options and no one cared enough to say, here's some help if you want it, well, there's people out there that do want help. The reality is, if those kinds of opportunities continue, we deem it as a success. We'll keep moving forward till that number just keeps going down, 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 and down. The next step for us is going to start next week, is our combination of fire, police, and private counseling entities through the Addicted Service Council, is the taking of the overdose data, getting that information, and then following that up with a trained professional to do on-site triage and an assessment of the addicted person, as well as providing information and aid and counseling to the family to realize that, okay, no one ever, I don't know how to handle this. You actually care about me? You want this? Because again, in talking to the people in recovery, this is the step. There's a bridge that was never there. The overdose or the arrest or whatever that might have been to engage, to bring them to our doorstep, so to speak. It was just they went on their way. And we went on our way, or we arrested them, took them to jail. And there was never any, okay, let's get you some help. Well, we're going to do that. I don't know what the success is going to be.
Sure.
But the outcomes are very positive. The feedback from other professionals is that you're going to be surprised with the success that you're going to have. And from the people in recovery is I just don't understand why police and firemen would care whether I live or die.
And that's an interesting comment because obviously we have police and fire to to protect and to serve, as the slogan would be. Isn't that not part of that? Care?
Absolutely.
I mean, and we've had many from both police and fire here on Communicator discussing varying items of added service that most people don't believe is a part of that entity.
Absolutely.
And what you're doing is building on that idea of to preserve and protect.
Absolutely. I think, and I've said it before, if I pulled the interview of every police officer and every firefighter, somewhere in that interview, they said they want to help people. They want to make a positive impact. They want to be a part of something that makes a difference in someone's life. All those different things all mean the same thing. We care. This allows us to change a mindset, look at these people as real human beings, and say, if you're willing and you're open, we're going to provide you that bridge. We're going to get you the expert. The expert's going to find you the resources, and it's up to you to do that. But again, you can look in the mirror and say, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? If anybody came to us and said, do you know that there's a heroin problem? What are you doing about it? Well,
You're able to answer that question.
I can answer that because I got like 20 pieces of actions items that we've taken since we started our piece to say we're trying to educate, we're trying to engage, we're trying to make a difference. We're still arresting people. They're still accountable for their behavior, but there are also people out here that are caught up in this world and they have no other resource. Well, people dial 911. They want help. Well, the definition of help is pretty wide.
Yeah.
The scope is pretty significant. This is important. And like I said, we believe that we can impact the crime associated with it, and all the things that are surrounding that, and positively impact our community. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. There's other communities that are waiting for us to put our quick response team out there to see the results, so then they can emulate it. I'm being told that in conversations around that. When you're successful, do you have this written down? Do you have this so we can push this forward? Take it, steal it, make it happen. Absolutely.
I love how it is other entities are looking towards you. What do you think has caused that change to happen, that they are looking towards Colerain Township as a beacon to look at the success, and at some point maybe not a success,
correct,
to move them forward, to propel them to be, as Jim Rowan would say, a best-in-class community?
Well, I believe that there's a lack of fear to fail. I believe that the leadership allows you to think outside the box, to use a common term. But you know what? If this fails, we're going to regroup. We're going to be, when we'll reformulate a plan, we'll push it back out there. I mean, that's called the assessment phase of all problem solving, is assess it, determine whether you're doing it well or not. If you are, keep moving forward. If not, adjust and restart. I mean, not afraid to fail. This is a problem, and not the first time you jump out there isn't going to be the be-all, end-all. The reality is that in combination with a lot of things, a lot of education, a lot of engagement, our drug drop box, April was Prescription Drug Awareness Month. Our firefighters and police officers use the Ohio Attorney General. They passed those pieces out. We made them available at our doorsteps, so to speak. And we had a significant increase in drop box receipts. A lot of folks were dropping off their prescription drugs. We've had over probably 400 pounds of drugs deposited in our drop box.
And people may not realize what a significance that is. It may not necessarily be considered a problem, but if you are using, anybody could come up and say, that's still a narcotic that is going to...
Absolutely, and if it's in your medicine chest, then it's available for whoever. We don't like to think that, but the reality is a lot of the heroin is driven off a prescription previously, whether it was theirs or someone else's. This was driven from, but it became too costly. So I moved from the painkiller, the prescription medication, to a heroin that's a lot cheaper to purchase and a lot easier to get. Well, okay then. We've just seen the transition of that. So if we take that away, Now maybe we eliminate that, maybe we reduce that. But there is so much that's going on in respect to the education amongst the physician worlds on appropriate treatment plans for people with the addictions, to dispensing of medications appropriately, asking the right questions. I went to one of the summits for the heroin problem, and one of the doctors presented. He said he asks every patient that he distributes or prescribes opiates to, how'd that make you feel? He said 4 out of 5 are going to make you say, I'm really tired. I mean, it makes me sleepy, which that's what it does to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I usually am a nothing. I don't want to do anything.
Absolutely. But then 1 out of 5 is going to tell you that he was, my gosh, I cut the grass, I cleaned the garage, I did this, I painted the house. He said,
wow.
As a doctor, I'm taking note of that because that's not what's supposed to happen. I need to adjust and make sure that I prescribe appropriately from that point forward. Well, how come all of our doctors don't do that? Or do they? When you're prescribing that, it's a simple question. When you took this, how did it make you feel? Wow, that might adjust some behaviors, might adjust some dispensing behaviors. Those kinds of things are being worked on in that realm of society. While we can take care of the things that we're taking care of. And if we have an opportunity to engage our community, so take the forum that's provided to you, whether it be individual officer at your doorway or the ability to have a forum like this to be able to speak, let's take advantage of it and let people know, number 1, that we're aware, number 2, that we're working, number 3, we have a vision to make a positive impact. Certainly, combine, work with us, offer suggestions. We're open to that.
We are getting close to the bottom of the hour, so I do want to make sure that we touch on a few things. The one thing I want to say that in all of this is, and I hope that everyone understands this, is that we're not looking at this as a fear-based method. Correct. I would say maybe 15 years ago, this would have been, yes, there's a problem, and you know what? We're going to lock up every one of you. We're going to, and what we're presenting is not. It's that idea of the open door and care. Where do you think that shift in focus became? Because, like I said, within 15 years ago, it would have been clear that there'd be a man of the law with a big hat. It'd be very Western looking,
sure.
And don't come in my neighborhood because drugs don't belong here.
I worked for 25 years in the zero tolerance policy for drugs. I mean, if I caught you with drugs, you were gonna get arrested. The realization is that this is a chemistry issue within the body that this drug impacts, this opioid. It's a little more scientific, and it's about education. And I'll tell you, 3 years ago, Chief of Police, you talked to me about it, there's a hard stance. We're going to go out there, we're going to saturate, we're going to arrest, and we're going to put them in jail. You have to open up your mind a little bit to understand the depth of the problem, to say, okay, while that's a necessary part of the response, it's not working. We're going to still do those things, but it's a part of the bigger picture, not just the only thing. And in law enforcement, it's been very proactive in opening up their mind with this. The Hamilton County Heroin Coalition, law enforcement's moving forward. I mean, they're involved in changing the dynamic of how we deal with these things, the look-back investigations, the engaging the other parties that we never engaged before. The education of our community. Those are things that law enforcement said, you know what, we have to change the game because this just continues to see it show itself over and over and over again, and it's not working. So I have to give credit to my fellow law enforcement leaders to say, you know what, we're open to we got to do something different.
And it's becoming a positive influence on the community, which is great. Now, as we wind down, I want to make sure that we get any information. Obviously, we have these flyers out there, as well as the Recovery Resource Packet. Where can someone get this information? If they're watching us tonight, and they don't, obviously, may not want to come out of the house and admit anything, but are able to get some anonymous information to get out there to help themselves.
This packet is on our website, on the police department's website. Okay. As a link, and you can click on it, print it, look at it, whatever you want. We are going, actually, in the first part of July, we're going door to door in several neighborhoods to start distributing this flyer. So this flyer will come to some of our higher use neighborhoods that we've had problems with, overdoses with. We're going to target those first, and we're going to get them out to our community. So you can say, put something on your side of your refrigerator, or whatever the case may be, I have information that can help me save a life.
And that's all we're asking. One little bit of help can help one person, can help 5.
Absolutely.
And hopefully if those people are watching today have gained at least a small bit of knowledge today.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, Dan, we're always glad to have you on here. So that's
Cool.
not a problem. And again, the last bit, just a quick summary. We've been 3 months since the opiate epidemic seminar to today. Your positive thoughts, negative thought, where are we and where should we be when we have that at the end of the summer?
The positive is there's a lot of great people working to make our communities better. And it's not just Colerain, it's Southeast Indiana, it's Hamilton County, Butler County. They're out there because there's a lot of people that care. So if you live in this region, there's a lot of smart people working to positively impact our communities and our residents. The negative is, for me, it's always it never goes as fast as I want it to. You know, our quick response team, I wanted that started last September in 14. It's now May or June of 2015, just because things have to work through. That's going to happen next week, but that was still not fast enough for me. But the reality is, the bringing of people together is the smartest thing you can do, and letting smart people work and do their best and make a difference is what we believe in. I think it's working. So as a member of Colerain Township, as a resident of Colerain Township, I'm sad that we deal with this, but I'm proud of the people in the community that want to make a positive impact.
That's the best way to end the evening. So with that, I'm going to say, take a look at the information at the bottom of your screen to be able to get the information that may make a difference in your life. I'm Jason Grisgoric, joined by Dan Malloy here on Colerain Communicator. Just remember, Colerain is just a hop away for you. Have a great evening. We'll see you next time.